Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson on inverse proportion. Okay, so this is the second lesson on proportion. You should have done direct yesterday, so inverse proportion today. Okay, so something that's inversely proportional just means as one amount increases, the other decreases. Okay, so an example could be when building a wall, as the amount of workers increase, the hours needed to build it decreases. So the more workers, the less amount of time. Okay, and there's lots of other examples you could say about that. One of them may be like the value of a car. So the older a car gets, usually um, the lower the value is. Okay, so you would say as the age of the car increases, the value of the car decreases. So it's as one goes up, the other goes down. Okay, so the equation that we're going to be using today for this proportion, okay, is rather than y equals kx, so k times by x, which was what we did for direct proportion, it's going to be y equals k over x, so k divided by x. Okay, so we will be given y and x in the first case to work out what k is, which is a constant. Okay, so that's why we multiply by. It's the multiplying factor. So we need to work this out first, and then we can apply that to any other question afterwards. So if we just get straight into, well, we won't don't copy this one down. All right, we'll look at the proper examples in a minute. So I'm just going to do this one briefly to try and explain. Okay, so y is the number of hours. Okay, every single time. Okay, and x is always going to be the workers every time as well. Okay, so in this original part of the question here, look, it says a wall can be built in 6 hours by 4 workers. I don't know why that keeps rubbing out. So this is y, this is x, okay? Y is the number of hours, x is the number of workers. So what we've got to do first of all is use the formula that we're given and work out what this constant is. So we know that y equals k divided by x. Okay, if we look in this first sentence here, we're told that y equals 6 and x equals 4. So let's substitute that into this equation. Okay, so instead of writing y, we're going to write 6. K will stay as it is. Instead of writing x, we're going to write 4. Okay, so this now says the 6 equals something divided by 4. So something divided by 4 equals 6. Well, we need to work out what k is. Okay, because that's going to be our constant. So if we were to solve this for k now, it means something divided by 4 equals 6. Okay, well, we just solve in a normal way by using the inverse, isn't it? So do the opposite of what it says. So the opposite of dividing by 4 would be to times by 4, wouldn't it? So k is 6 times by 4, which is 24. Okay, k is a constant. So for this question, using these values, k is always going to be 24. Okay, so in the equation that we've got here, right, we know now every single time for this question the k is going to be 24. So we can say that our equation is now y equals 24 over x. Okay, you have to work out that constant first and then just put it into your equation. Because now if I give you a value of x, you can work out what y is, and if I give you a value of y, you can work out what x is. So in this second part of the question here, look, it says, how quickly can it be built by 10 workers? Remember, workers is x. So all that means is, what would y be, okay, because y is the number of hours, when x is 10? Well, we already know now that the constant is 24, and it's 24 divided by x, and x is now 10. So, shouldn't have written that, sorry. Instead of writing x, we're going to write 10, because we're told that that's what it is. So y, in this case, will equal 2.4. So that means that it can be done in 2.4 hours. Okay? So hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense now when you actually do some of these questions. All right, so I'm going to do 4 examples with you. Okay, so what I would do is press pause, copy these first 2 examples down, press play when you're ready, please. Okay, welcome back then. So we know now, all right, that this here is the formula that we're using, y equals k over x. Okay, so in the first part of the question here, y inversely proportional to x, that means we're using this formula. If y equals 10, x equals 4. Okay, it says find the value of y when x equals 5. Well, before we can do that, we have to use this information and work out our constant for k. Okay, so if y equals k over x, let's substitute in what we know. So we know that y equals 10. Okay, we know that x equals 4. So 10 equals k over 4. All right, if we want to solve for k now, that means that we do the opposite of dividing by 4, which is to times by 4. So k equals 10 times 4, which is 40. So we now know from there that k equals 40. So the equation that we're going to use for this question now is y equals 40 over x, because we know now that k is 40. Okay, so that's the first part done. We've worked out the constant of k and we've input it into our equation. Now we can do this second part here where it says find value of y when x equals 5. So all that means is substitute this x as a 5 instead and work out what y is. So we're saying y equals 40 divided by 5, because we're told that x is 5. Well, 40 divided by 5 is 8, so y equals 8. Right? So it's just a little bit of substituting into a formula, that's all. So for question 2, press pause and copy it down. Press play when you're ready, please. So we're still using this exact same formula, okay, using the two values that we're given here. So instead of y equals kx, we're saying 24, because that's what y is, equals k over, and instead of x, we're writing 2, so k over 2. So we're going to use this information now to find out the value of k. So this says something divided by 2 is 24. The opposite divided by 2 is the times. Okay, so k equals 24 times 2, which is 48. So the equation now, instead of us saying y equals k over x, we know that k is always 48. So we're saying y equals 48 over x. Okay, so we've done the first part. We found the constant. The second part then says find the value of y when x equals 8. So all we're going to do is say y equals 48 over 8, because we're told here that x equals 8. 48 divided by 8 is 6. Y must equal 6. Okay, so try not to overcomplicate what we're doing. The first step every single time is use the two values that you're given to figure out this constant. And once you know what that constant is, you can use it to figure out the other missing value then when the x value changes. Okay. Okay, next example then. So press pause again and copy number 3 down, please, and press play when you're ready to go through this one. So this time you'll notice it says y is inversely proportional to x squared. So when it's inversely proportional to x, we say y equals k over x. If it's inversely proportional to x squared, we have to replace this with x squared. Okay, so we're going to say now y equals k over x squared. Now we do everything in the same way. So we're going to substitute these two values of x and y into here, find out what k is. Okay, so we're saying y equals 4 and x equals 3, but it's x squared, so that becomes 3 squared, doesn't it? Yeah. So if I write that out again, 4 equals k over 9, because 3 squared is 9, isn't it? So to work out the constant of k, we're saying something divided by 9 equals 4. The opposite of dividing by 9 is to times. Okay, k must equal 4 times 9, which is 36. So the equation we're actually going to use now is, because we know that k is 36, this is now y equals 36 over x squared. Okay, because it says x squared there, didn't it? We've done that part now. Now we can concentrate on this part of the question. Find the value of y when x equals 2. So all we're doing now is substituting the number 2 into there. So y equals 36 over 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Okay, 36 divided by 4 is 9. Y must equal 9 when x is 2. All right, and then the last one. Okay, so press pause, copy this one down, press play when you're ready. Welcome back. This one says y is inversely proportional to the square root of x. So instead of us just saying k over x now, we're going to say k over the square root of x. So we need to do y equals k over the square root of x, because that's what it tells us in the question. Okay, now we can use these two values for x and y, and we can figure out our constant for k. Okay, So y is 20. K we're going to figure out, and x is 16. So root 16. Right, that gives us 20 equals k over 4, because the square root of 16 is 4, isn't it? So remember now, this means something divided by 4 equals 20. The opposite of divided by 4 is the times. So k equals 20 times 4, which is 80. Okay. Now we can do that and insert it into our equation here. So for this question, y is always going to equal 80 over root x. Okay. Now let's look at this question. Find the value of y when x equals 25. So all we're doing is substituting x equals 25 into here. So y equals 80 over root 25. Okay, root 25, the square root of 25 is 5, isn't it? So we're doing y equals 80 divided by 5. Okay, 25's in 80 is 16. Y equals 16. Okay, so try not to overcomplicate what it is that we're doing. Always use the information we're given in the first part of the question to find out the constant for k. Once you know k, substitute in what x is to work out y. Okay, so have a go at those. Have a go at these questions now, sorry. Okay, so press pause and have a go. Press play when you're ready to do the answers. Okay, welcome back then. So here are the answers then that you should have got for those. So press pause again just to double check them. Press play when you're ready and move on for the checking question. Okay, here's the checking question then. Okay, so it says y is inversely proportional to the cubed root of x. Y equals 20, x equals 8. Find the value of y when x equals 125. So press pause and have a go, please. Press play when you're ready to do the answer. Okay, welcome back. So y being inversely proportional to the cube of x means y equals k over the cubed root of x. All right, so let's substitute the values in that we know. Y equals 20 and x equals 8. Okay, so we're going to now say 20 equals k over the cubed root of 8. The cubed root of 8 means what do you cube to make 8? And that's 2. Okay, so 20 equals k over 2. That means k must equal 20 times 2, which is 40. So that's that done. Now let's look at this. So if k is 40, our equation now becomes y equals 40 over the cubed root of x. This says find y when x equals 1 to 5. So substitute that in here. Look, y equals 40 over cubed root of 125. Cubed root of 125 is 5. So 40 divided by 5 means that y equals 8. Okay, so that's today's lesson on inverse proportion. Thanks very much for listening, watching. See you soon.